6.3, how can it be 6.3? Rational exponents. So we talk about radicals. Now every radical can be written as an exponent. They're inverses of each other. So when you're looking at a radical, and we have our n right here, our index, this is the denominator of the fraction that can be written with a radical. So an example, if there's no number, there's always like a 2 right here. I didn't write 2 right here. Okay then. A 2 right there, and then that can be written as 1/2. So this 3 index can be written as 1/3. You can go either way. So if I give you a fraction exponent, your answer can be written as a root. Now, when I give you problems, if the initial problem is given with a fraction exponent, your answer should be a fraction exponent. If the initial problem is given with a radical, your answer should be given as a radical. That's just one way so that you don't have to go, what should we do? Now, a couple things. Some of you might be able to rewrite this as you can rewrite this as a radical if you wish to solve this. Otherwise, you can type in 216 and then your raised to, so this button right here, this top hat, and I can do 1 divided by 3. So for that first problem, my answer here is 6. So this answer, 6. If you have the same base, remember numbers with the same base, you can add exponents. So this is the same thing as 7 because that's the same base as my exponents added together. So that's just going to be 7 to the first. Here, you cannot add exponents. Repeat, you cannot because these do not have the same base. 5 and 125 are not the same base. You can check this in your graphing calculator though. If I do 5 raised to the 1 divided by 4, make sure you arrow down, times 125 raised to the 1 divided by 4, arrow down, push enter, that answer is 5. So right now I want you to pause the video and I want you to do the 3 remaining questions written. You should have gotten 11. You can type this into your graphing calculator as well, or else you could have also done it just like this. 11 to the first. This is the same thing. If you know your perfect squares pretty well, this is the same thing as the square root of 64, which is 8. Or else you can type it just like that. And the last one, you have to type in your calculator to get 6. Now again, when we're looking for this rational exponent, whenever we have a fraction, this part is our index. If there's a fraction with a number up top, that stays underneath the root as an exponent. So anything in the numerator stays underneath the root. You can rewrite it like this or like this. In either way, these are both the same. So now we're going to rewrite this. So this is a fraction exponent. So when this is a fraction exponent, I can rewrite that as a radical. Anything on the numerator stays underneath the root. Anything in the denominator goes as your index. So this would be how I would rewrite that one. Now, when this is not given to you as a fraction, what you can do is you can type in 3.5 and then go math and change that to a fraction. That will help you. So I have 7/2. So this is y to the negative 7/2. We know because of this negative number right here, this is the same thing as 1 over y to the 7/2. So if I rewrite this, this is 1 over, this 2 comes out in front. If you write the 2 out there, that's fine, just like this. And in this problem, it's just asking it for radical form, but we could simplify this even further. So this is how I would rewrite it into a radical for both of these. Now, if I have it as a radical and I want to rewrite exponential, and if there's no number here, there's always a little 2 guy there. That's your denominator. So this would be a to the 5/2. Here, it doesn't matter where this is still going to be my denominator. This is still going to be my numerator. So on top would go the 3, on bottom would go the 5. I want you to pause the video and try to do these two by yourself. So the w, because it's negative, I moved it to the bottom of the fraction, and then this is my index. Here I change this to a fraction first, and then this 5, the denominator, is my index. If you want to write a 1 right here, you sure can, you don't have to. Here my index is 4, so that becomes my denominator. Here my index is 5, so that becomes my denominator. What's the difference between exponential and radical? So radical is when you have the root written. Exponential is when it's an exponent. So if it's an exponent, that means it's a fraction exponent. A radical is a fraction exponent. This problem 3, we're not doing that. Let's see if I actually have numbers though. If I have numbers, I can just use my graphing calculator because there's no x's here. So I can go 16 raised to the negative, make sure you do negative 2.5. If this happens, I want you to change this into a fraction. So if I go math and then change it to a fraction, this answer is 1 over 1024. Right now, I want you to pause the video and try to do these three in your calculator right now. You should have gotten 16. The big important thing is making sure this is in parentheses when you type in that negative. Here you should have gotten 8, and here you should have 1 over 2,187. So now, this is where it gets a little bit more confusing. When we have a fraction exponent, that means we want everything in a fraction exponent. So what I'm going to do first is rewrite this as a fraction exponent. Then we have this negative 8x, and then in parentheses, because that's what's underneath the root, I'm going to raise that to the 1/2 power because of the fact that this whole thing is underneath. And this is still to the 2/3. Now in this case, I can now do my properties of exponents. So first I'm going to do this 1/2. So I'm going to have negative 8x. This becomes x to the 1/2, y to the 1/2. That's still raised to 2/3 power. So all I did was do that first property of exponents. Now, because I'm multiplying, I can combine those two x's. So I have negative 8. This would be like 1 plus 1/2, which is 3/2, y to the 1/2. And I still have that 2/3 here. Now I can give that don't be greedy to everything on the inside. Just like this one up here, you want to make sure to put this in parentheses. So in my calculator, I'm going to simplify my negative 8 raised to 2/3 power first. That becomes 4. So again, negative 8 raised to 2/3 power, that becomes 4. If you cannot do multiplying fractions in your head, you can go 3 divided by 2, because that's this right here, times 2 divided by 3. That will give me x to the first. Here I can do 1/2 times 2/3. So if I do 1 divided by 2 times 2 divided by 3, again, change that to a fraction, you get y to the 1/3. And that right there is my final answer. Here, same thing. I don't have any simplifying inside of this, but I have to distribute this to both of these numbers. So first I'm going to do 16 raised to the negative 3/4. And then I'm going to do negative 8 times negative 3/4, because a power to a power you multiply. So again, in parentheses, I have the 16 raised to the negative 3 divided by 4. Change that to a fraction, so this would be 1/8. So I know for sure I'm dealing with 8 on the bottom. If I have negative 8 times negative 3 divided by 4, that would give me 6. This is a positive number, so y to the 6 is going to stay on top. Right now, I want you to pause the video and try to do the next two by yourself. So this first one, you bring the negative 1/3 here. If you put that in your calculator, that's 1/2. Here you multiply 15 times negative 1/3. That gives you a negative 5. Because this is negative, you put that on the bottom of the fraction. So this is my answer for C. Here, my first step was to rewrite this as the 1/4 power. Now you have a power to a power, so you multiply. So this, if I put that in my calculator, I get 27. Here, if I do 1 times 3/2, that's just 3/2. Here I do 1/4 times 3/2, that's 3/8. So those are my two last answers. And there you go. Look how smart you are just for listening and writing that down. You're a genius. Have a great, grand, one